Miss Grand International 2025 interviews are complete, so let's chat about them. I'm Dani, welcome to the channel. If you're prepping for a pageant, please check out my free pageant prep course. It is linked in the description and it's packed with tons of free resources that I've put together for you. One note that I have overall is that I felt like even though the contestants did not interview last year one-on-one, we're seeing that change this year, that the interviews last year felt like the ladies really took the initiative to pitch themselves to Nawat and really say like, this is why you need to pick me. And I feel like we didn't really get that with many of our contestants this year, so I was a bit disappointed in that. But I still want to talk about some interesting interviews that I did see and my thoughts. Canada brought maple syrup, which I thought was so cute, and this is one of the very few organizations where you are allowed to bring gifts into the interview room. This, ladies, is normally not standard across the board for many different organizations, and in fact it's usually against the rules. You also usually can't bring a handbag into an interview, but that's an exception that we do see in the Grand International organization. Canada, for all the other events, has really been on my edge, but it was really interesting to hear her speak and see her demonstrate such great personality and positivity. One thing I really like that she talked about is that she traveled the world to various countries to prep for this competition. So she was working with coaches from everywhere so she could really be prepared. And I like that. I like that she demonstrated the effort and how much this title means to her. And that would be something I would definitely take into consideration if I was a judge, because I love hearing how much a title actually means to a contestant. Because usually if it means a lot to her to prep, there's a good chance that during a year of reign that she'll put forward a lot of effort there as well. Myanmar shared about how she's learning multiple languages like Chinese and Thai, and how she feels like that's incredibly valuable moving forward in the workforce. She also shared that her message is the message of love, and she also referenced the conflicts in her country and how she believes that love is going to be at the core and the center of how we're going to be able to overcome all of these things moving forward. I also must say I really loved her outfit. Beautiful. Kosovo, I think that her dress was a little bit too short. So ladies, take note of that, because when we're in an interview, we don't want to cross our legs over our knees because there's a chance that we could be flashing our judges a little bit. We want our knees to touch and our ankles to cross instead. But I understand that she would have had to kind of cross over to really be hyper aware of that. She was also pulling at the hem of the dress, which was quite distracting. So ladies, take note. There is such thing as too short for an interview. She was one of the contestants who addressed the camera, and she thanked everybody for all of their support for her for Miss Grand International. She's currently training for her master's in Italy, and she works as a manager. She says that she's not just there to win, but she's also there to promote stopping the war and violence. One thing I like that she said is that she is here to represent the new generation because they're not perfect and neither is she. Fidu's interview was so cute. I just want to quickly mention her because I didn't feel like she really had that chance to pitch herself, but Teresa did give her some encouragement and tell her that basically she was so impressed that she's really just been sticking this out. And so let's see how it goes for her. She was in a really beautiful suit. She looked great, but I don't know, with that injury, it's just going to be tough. Czech Republic has been one of my favorites, and I loved her here as well. She looked very beautiful. Even Nawat commented on her hair and her makeup, and she shared how she took lots of makeup lessons across Asia and that her makeup was very much influenced by Asian hair and makeup artists, and I thought that was a fun fact. She was also recently in a Netflix movie, and then she brought up a really great point, because when we think of European contestants, we don't think often that these are powerhouse countries, because in the past decade or so, we don't see a lot of European title holders. I feel like there is more of a switch, and that's coming, and we're slowly starting to see more. But she brought up the point that her country specifically is supportive of their title holders. She referenced a recent Miss World winner who came from Czech Republic and the support that the country showed for her. So I thought that was a very smart point to make. One question that they asked the contestants last year that we saw this year again was, if you are not chosen as the winner, who should we pick instead? And at Grand, when they ask you this question, they do not allow you to just share characteristics and qualities of a winner. No, you have to actually pinpoint just one fellow contestant that you would want to win. I've noticed that there's 3 common ways to answer this. The first is by saying, oh my gosh, if not me, because of course I would choose myself. That's our first type of contestant. Then we see others that talk about how amazing everybody is before they finally reveal who they would select. And then the last group of ladies immediately knows who they would pick, and they shout out that name so quick and then give you a list of reasons why she should win. And honestly, I think that you can take this question any way that you want it to go. It's not really going to harm you by sharing something positive about another contestant. But there was an approach that I really liked that a few of the contestants took. And they quickly stated the contestant that they would choose to win the title, but then they said the reason I would choose her is because we shared these things in common. And then they went on to list the things that they had in common. So while they were bragging about their fellow contestant, they were also still sharing valuable information about themselves with the judges. Mexico, the eyes, oh my gosh, she is just glowing in this interview and I love it. She actually works at a veterinary hospital. She has social projects. She also sings. She shared that she believes that she is inspirational because she worked hard as a child to pay for her schooling. She uses her voice to inspire and believes that nothing is impossible. And one of her goals is to learn new languages, and also that she is somebody who is fearless. Guatemala also brought some treats for our judging panel, which is fun. Honestly, I would be excited if anybody brought me something edible in an interview. She looked so lovely here. She had very light makeup. I believe Nawat even made a comment that he liked that as well. And I feel like that's what's so important, ladies. Like when you're in the interview, you don't have to pack on the makeup. In fact, I feel like it's way more attractive when you're able to rock a look where you have the least amount of makeup as possible to make you the most beautiful that you can possibly be. So it's about finding that balance. So she talked about all of her life experiences, her work experiences, working at Vogue, and she also talked about, because she's 28, that she has the ability to regulate her emotions when people confront her with criticisms, and that because of the personal growth that she's had and how she's able to self-regulate, that is a real asset to her when it comes to public criticisms, and that's something she would definitely be facing if she is the new title holder. Australia was one of our first contestants this year, and the moment she sat down, I noticed, oh my gosh, the lighting is not helping anyone. It just exposed everybody's flyaways, which is never fun. Not her fault, but ladies, just really take that into consideration, especially if you're competing in more humid climates. Think about the fact that you may get flyaways. That's something that happens to my hair all the time. Australia shared about how Grand's mission to stop the war and violence is what sets it apart from other organizations. Honestly, she really impressed me here in this interview with her energy. I thought that was really great. And then also, I talked about her in my other recent episode where I featured my favorite performances from the swim competition, and she did stand out there. So now I'm really looking forward to watching her during the preliminary competition. South Africa, I love her little feather detail on her outfit. Very, very cute. And South Africa is one of those countries where they consistently send great competitors. And she was just so articulate in her interview. She talked about how she is an accounting student and that she created Born to Be Grand. She's mentioning her advocacy. She talked about how she grew up and has a family farm, and she also has her own foundation. She was just so articulate, and that makes so much sense for South Africa. I really love her. France. Beautiful. So, so beautiful. She was born in France, but she was raised in the Ukraine, so she speaks both languages. She has a really beautiful dress that she wore, and she talked about how children from Ukraine were actually the ones who designed her dress and how this is so meaningful to her because she actually still goes back to visit and deliver supplies to the children there. She mentioned that this is very important to her and it's one of her personal advocacies. I think she came across as incredibly sincere in her interview. She also shared about how growing up she took part in classical dance and violin. She's currently a model with an economics degree, and she has a dream of creating a cosmetic line to help women who have different skin issues feel confident in their own skin. And her goal is for Miss Grand International to be held in France, which they would do a phenomenal job if it was held there. Oh my gosh, just go watch Miss France. See what they do, what they're capable of. I loved Malaysia's outfit. She looked ready for Fashion Week. In fact, now I'm like, wait, I think I can make something like that for Fashion Week for next season. That would be so fun. The tie that is the bag, fabulous. She mentioned how she is a pageant veteran in Malaysia. She loves singing and dancing, so she's bringing in that entertainment aspect. And she also mentioned that she appreciates that Grand gives so many opportunities to celebrate the contestants and showcase them, which I feel like they definitely do. There's so many chances to show off these ladies. However, the one thing is that I didn't feel like she really pitched herself and gave a specific reason why they really need to pick her. So I think that was missing. Colombia also had very, very beautiful makeup in my opinion, and she is very intelligent. She's been living in Miami and she has a degree in urban planning and architecture, so she works in architecture currently. She was another one of the contestants though where I wish we would have been able to hear her just really pitch herself for this is why I make the most sense as your next winner. Vietnam, I loved her look in interview, but Vietnam is oftentimes well dressed across the board, any system. They're very prepared, very lovely. She talked about how she's a tourism major and that her father works in construction. She talked about that people were upset about apparently something that she said when her roommate was going live, and she said that moving forward that she will be more aware of the things that she says, and I'm unaware of what even happened, but apparently it caused some kind of a stir on social media, and I think it was actually really smart for her to address that. Zimbabwe was one of the contestants that surprised me. I love this color on her, love the print, love the fabric, fabulous, really, really great. I really like that she shared her story about how she was bullied and that pageants helped her to get her confidence. And she also mentioned that her country is known for its wildlife and also for peace, that they gained their independence later than the surrounding countries because they were aiding the surrounding countries in gaining their independence before their own. I thought that was a beautiful sentiment, and it really relates to stop the war and violence, in my opinion. She has a degree in psychology and she loves learning other languages, and she enjoys that because she feels that it helps her to better communicate with other people because you can have better understanding of someone if you're speaking their language. New Zealand was one of my surprises. First of all, I love her look here. We also learned that her mom is a Filipina, so I was like, okay, like this makes a little bit more sense, but she was very, very well styled in this. She also had such a mature presentation, and I loved that about her. Her country, New Zealand, is very, very beautiful. So she talked about how she would love to bring Grand to New Zealand and how it could boost tourism, and that people would really love being able to go there because they'd finally get the exposure to the country and they wouldn't regret it because it's so beautiful. And then in this conversation, it kind of led to this moment where Nawat was suggesting that she become a national director after her time at Grand for other Grand countries. And she was like, okay, let's do it. Honestly, I really liked Bolivia. I think that she had such a great attitude, a great energy walking into the interview and throughout the whole thing. Loved the white in her. I just felt like she was so comfortable and confident. She also works in entertainment and she wants to be an actress. I wish she was able to share more information about herself. I feel like she should have taken that initiative, but still, I liked the interview. Laos, I loved this color on her. It was beautiful and the makeup complemented it so perfectly. But this interview was in Thai, I believe, so all of my Thai friends are gonna have to add their 2 cents in the comments and let me know what you thought of her interview. Cuba is only 20 years old, and I was honestly really surprised that age came up for almost every contestant this year. It seemed like something that they're really considering, and I do feel like a factor that could have gone into that is the fact that India, who did win last year, was on the younger side of being a title holder, and there is value in having life experience and growing, and so maybe that's something that they're going to be looking for. I'm curious to see if our older contestants are going to be ones that are taking up most of those spots in a top 20. I really also loved her outfit here, and Grand is one of those pageants where you can really go above and beyond and wear just about anything, even a gown. We did see some styles like that this year. She was very, very well styled. She also was able to share that she is a hard worker. She's been working since she was 16 years old. She also shared her story about how she immigrated from Cuba to the US and how she was separated from her parents for a period of 4 years during that process, and how this helped her to grow into an adult. And I thought that that was a really, really smart story to share, especially if a judge ever asks or wants to make a point or brings up a concern about your age. It's important to be able to have that prepared story and experience that you can share that'll prove, hey, even though I might be younger out of this group, I still have the experience necessary to do a great job as your next title holder. Indonesia is so beautiful, and we found out that she flips houses for a living. And I have to say her personality was so cute. Loved that. She was having fun the entire time. She also enjoys singing, and she says that she already sells things online, but being Miss Grand International, she would want to learn how to be a better seller than she already is. And she said that her pick for the crown would be Kosovo because she's smart, she's very intelligent, and she's an entertainer. She makes sense for the brand. Trinidad, let me just say, obsessed with what she's wearing. The red looks so great. She looks so beautiful. I also really love her accent. I enjoy it. She talked about even how she didn't win her national crown. I don't know what the situation was in her country, but she wasn't the initial winner, and that she took over and really stepped up and she showed up. And she says essentially that's one of her most important qualities, is that she is going to be somebody who always shows up. And she was another one of our queens who said that if she didn't win, that she would choose Thailand. Dominican Republic's interview look, wow. Wow, oh my gosh, stunning. It's so funny. I literally just shared a suit like this in terms of color on my LTK, and I was like, I knew that would look really, really great in an interview room, especially on a brunette. So if you want to check that out, I can link it too. But she looked really beautiful, and I love that she talked about how she created a modeling academy. She has over 80 clients, and she says this is an example of how disciplined she is and how she is a leader. She talked about her social project, and she also mentioned that she has this inspiring story of weight loss, overcoming, and then building up this business for herself with all of her students, and how she's inspiring them in that way, and then also by representing the Dominican at Miss Grand International. And then she mentioned that she has lots of ideas for increasing revenue at Miss Grand International. So I thought this was a great interview. Thailand was so beautiful in gold, and actually quite a few contestants said that if they didn't win, that they would want Thailand to win. And I actually don't remember if Grand has actually had a Thai winner yet, but it would also make sense, and it would be very convenient because the winner does spend a ton of time in Thailand, so in that way it would be an asset. Although Nawat and Teresa speak Thai, Miss Thailand chose to conduct most of her interview in English up until the point that Nawat asked her to sell something on TikTok live because he had his phone there and he was streaming throughout the interview. So she did share that selling presentation in Thai. She talked about how much she loves the Miss Grand International organization. She likes selling, and she compared being a part of the Grand International organization to a type of school, a place where she can learn so much more. She mentioned that if anybody else could win, it would be Philippines, because Thailand and Philippines are often very supportive of their title holders, and she feels like they could be working together to continue to grow Grand International. Martinique was gorgeous in pink. Oh my gosh, this shade of pink really worked for her. And we learned that she is so smart. She went to Sorbonne. And if you know, you know. That is an elite university in France. The best of the best. She shared about how she's an actress, and that's why she was at the Cannes Film Festival, and that's the place where she actually almost met Nawat, but their paths didn't cross yet. She also did make mention of placing in the top 40 at Miss World and winning the top model competition. Panama was wonderful. She had one of the few teary interviews, and it was honestly lovely. She looked really great up close. She talked about how she's always had to fight for her goals and her dreams because she comes from a small country, and she teared up when she was thanking MGI for the opportunity that she had. You could see how grateful she was to be able to be there. She came across as so sweet. I also really liked what she wore. Nepal is so beautiful, and she's only 18 years old. Oh my goodness. I feel like she was a little bit soft spoken in this interview. She says she loves traveling even more than she loves singing. Her father is a businessman. She says she would like to have a business in the future, and that she enjoys selling on TikTok. Her interview honestly was a little bit shorter than I wanted it to be. I wish she had a little bit more time. USA looked so gorgeous. Oh my gosh, what excellent styling and wardrobe. This was perfect. She talked about how she also has her own modeling studio and a shoe brand. She says that she has competed in pageants since she was 8 years old, and she talked about when she initially competed for Grand USA, she placed top 10, but she came back stronger and better. When asked about the relevance of pageantry in the US, she talked about how she traveled to New York Fashion Week, where we met. She talked about her trip to the United Nations, and that she was invited to a dinner with President Trump, and she's like, the fact that I'm even attending these events in the US and being invited to these and many more just speaks to the relevance of pageantry, but also that there is still room to continue to bring back and revitalize the pageant industry. I think this was a very smart answer and a great interview. I'm really rooting for USA this year. Brazil, loved this suit, loved the stacked pearls, the bracelets. I thought that was so fun. I wish the hair would have been a bit more polished like how it looked at the swim competition. She was another one of the contestants that came across as very confident, very relaxed and comfortable. I like that a lot. And then she also brought up the point that she's really easygoing and easy to work with. So this is another one of those moments where I thought she was trying to prove that point because of what had happened earlier in the year with India. She talked about how even though she's from a small town, she did not let that affect her circumstance and her outlook on life and her positivity. Philippines was gorgeous, and her experience in pageantry is really coming in handy. She is shining. I like when they asked her, why should we pick you? And she said, well, aside from being a model, a host, a news anchor, and all of my life experiences, you should pick me for my heart. Then she talked about her social advocacy work, and the outfit that she was wearing actually came from prisoners that she works with. They wove her top for interview, which I thought was such a nice touch. I also feel like she made a slight reference to India and the resignation, and I was really glad to see that Nawat and Teresa and CJ didn't make an outright reference to that in the interview, but there definitely felt like there were some undertones of that throughout this entire process. But I think it was smart that Emma said that it's really important that a title holder has balance and also good behavior as she travels. We all know that Nawat is all about making money, and so she also talked about the importance of selling on TikTok Live, and essentially that she has all of these ideas to make Nawat more money. And I'm like, that is just music to his ears. So I feel like that's almost essential in a winning interview, and it's just great to see her doing so well considering her entire pageant journey. I'm very excited for her, and I feel like she really nailed this interview. UK came in, and I have to say, navy is one of my favorite colors on redheads. Looks so great, but I love this look. Oh my gosh, the tweed, the raised collar, oof, the fabrics. It was so good. So she shared her story about being a pageant coach in the UK. She also runs charity events. She talked about how she has no boyfriend, but that her love is money. And she said she was mentioned on the BBC being a grand title holder, and she reached over 10 million people by doing so. She says when they asked her what B she would add to the 4 B's, she said branding, and I've been waiting for somebody to say that. She says she's a model and a content creator, and she's not just ready to work, she's already working. Very, very good. I think she was excellent. I think her experience is really shining through here. Tanzania had a beautiful color combo. Oh my gosh, she is absolutely stunning. I love her. I do feel like she's a little bit soft-spoken in this interview. I did expect a bit more energy from her, so I hope that that does not negatively affect her. She also got a little bit teary-eyed when she was thinking about Grand International. She did share that she has a business, and she also talked about how as a title holder in her country that she's had a lot of support from the government and from celebrities, and that she would use social media to promote Miss Grand International. And she says the biggest misconception is that it's just a selling organization. She says there's so many other things you can do, including promoting stopping war and violence. And she said that she should win because she is intentional. I wish she would have made some reference to selling and that she has the ability to generate revenue, because we know that means so much to Nawat, but I still have high hopes for her. Puerto Rico had a beautiful outfit on for interview. I absolutely loved that. She said that she has a great love for the Grand International organization. She talked about how she loves hosting and modeling. She also mentioned her psychology degree, and she says that Grand is so great for personal growth and then also for greater connection. And another one though, I just wish she had a little bit more time to pitch herself and what makes her truly the best pick for the organization. Zombie looks so great in white. Oh my gosh. And another contestant. I just enjoy her accent. I want to listen to her all day long. She talked about how pageantry helped her get involved with tourism. She also mentioned her resilience and dedication, and that's what makes her different. She is humble and hopes that the staff at the pageant can speak to this. I like that. I like that a lot. And if she were to pick anybody to win, she would pick one of my other favorites, Tanzania. I love her. Venezuela looks so gorgeous and just so fresh, and I was so surprised by her because her interview just came across as so humble and so relaxed and relatable. I really, really like that. I'm glad that she brought up the point about her just being human. In her interview, she looked at the camera and she thanked everybody for their support, and she let them know that she can assure you she is doing her absolute best. They also asked her about pressure when it comes to the expectation of doing well or winning, and she's like, I just want people to know I'm doing my best, but I am not perfect, and I'm okay with that. And I just felt like she came across as so real in this interview. Spain looked gorgeous in yellow, and they asked if she did her own hair and makeup, and she's like, yes, I did, because I know that that's important as I'm traveling. I'm not always gonna have hair and makeup artists, which is very true. Nawat even made a point to tell her, please don't wear any more makeup than this for competition. This is the perfect amount. And I feel like that's true because sometimes we put too much on and then it begins to hide our beauty versus enhance it. I also like the point that she mentioned that she really admires CJ's adaptability, because we know that CJ took over for India and that wasn't an ideal situation, but that she really admires like how she's been able to adapt and step into the role of being a title holder. Ghana walked into the room in a beautiful interview look, so fun, so grand, but she also walked in with a giant cardboard cutout of her resume, which is so interesting. Also, I love that it had her headshot on there with her crown. That was beautiful. And I like that she really took the initiative to start out very strong and just say, hey, if you'd allow me, I'd like to share these things about myself. She wasted no time telling Nawat, this, and this are the reasons that you should be picking me. Here is my experience. Here are my ideas for making sales and selling. And I just think it was so smart. Now, you can't do this in every pageant, but this was brilliant. She also talked about how she's a singer, and Nawat and Grand International love to have performers. It's kind of a part of the system in a way. They like when they can use those talents and leverage that with the title holder. And then she talked about how her new debut song that's on TikTok has garnered millions of views. She also mentioned the degree she had and her work behind the scenes in entertainment. And so she really sold this, I think, in a great way. And I think the other thing that helped her a lot is when you watch all of the interviews, when they all had to share who they would pick as the winner, I believe that Ghana was the #1 answer. People raved about her personality, her preparation, her readiness. There were so many great positives that people shared about Ghana. So I feel like if she is to win, then she would have the support of a lot of her fellow title holders, which would be very nice. I thought overall these ladies did an excellent job. It is difficult to go into an interview situation like that where you're in front of a panel. It's also difficult just knowing that there are millions of people watching that interview live. And so I just have to commend all the ladies for making that attempt and showing up in the way that they did. So well done, and I can't wait to continue to follow all of your journeys.